Welcome to the video. So, as we look out from my window onto the night, I want to talk about something. And the thing I want to talk about in this video is really, really personal and might also be a bit, I don't know, disturbing, depressing, however you want to put it. And that's the reason you see this rather strange background. So what I've done is I've just put my phone against my window, and I think this background would work better than if I just showed you my face and switched on the light, because it's night and I think this feels more natural and you can focus on my words instead of uh, the screen. So I have shared a lot of personal stuff in my YouTube videos, in some of my YouTube videos, and anyway, more personal than most people usually do. I'm very much aware of it, and if you ask me why, I think, one of my goals, which I have maybe not explicitly mentioned, but it was always under the hood, it was always going on in my head, was to normalize struggle. Because, sometimes I feel very disconnected from my younger self, which I do not like at all. Because when people come to me and ask me, some people, like, so can you give me some advice? I want to study physics. I want to be like, maybe found an organization like you did with the Journal of Young Physicists. I want to write a book like you did, and this and that. And it's like, I don't know what they expect, but not all of them, of course, but some of them, they seem to be under the impression that it all is about, someone is born special, someone has got talent, you have to have a lot of resources, a lot of strategy, and stuff. And but whether they admit it or not, they seem to be thinking that stuff works overnight, which is simply not true. Because they think struggle is something, struggle, failure, this is something we need to hide, we need to, I mean, these are not stuff worth being proud of, which is very, I strongly disagree with that. Because I think, as I have mentioned previously, I don't remember if I mentioned this in my YouTube video, any of my previous YouTube videos, but I definitely mentioned this in some of my writings, most likely somewhere I forgot. It's we should focus more on how to handle failures than how to become successful. Because if you focus on how to become successful, and maybe you become successful, you get there, but you don't know what to do after that. Let's just spend the first 20 or 30 years of your life chasing success, and when you're, let's say, 30 years old, or around that age, you actually become successful. So what do you do for the rest of your life if you don't even know how to handle that success? Otherwise, it would be a very short-lived success. And you should question yourself if success is really, I mean, to what extent are you ready to sacrifice for success? Because I personally think this varies, this depends on the person, this varies from person to person, but I personally think that if we could normalize the process rather than the outcome, these failures, all the underlying pain, the struggle, that it's okay to feel down at times, to get depressed at times, to have negative thoughts and stuff. And it doesn't, if you have negative thoughts, it's not like, okay, I am having some negative thoughts, so let me just immediately seek out help, or I don't know, therapy. Of course, if it's extreme, it's a different situation. But I mean, it's good to relax and give time to yourself and just trust the process at times, instead of like question. Of course, questioning the process is very important, especially for the kind of work I do. It's the maybe the most important, but it depends, because, so anyway, I just talked. I was just beating around the bush, but let's get straight to the what I want to discuss in this video. Because as much as I would have loved to, unfortunately, I don't have 24 hours. I mean, I don't have enough time to discuss with my YouTube viewers, and it's not even a live discussion, which I would have loved if it was. But anyway, so I have to keep it short. Uh, because of course I understand you have a lot of I mean, you have other work, and I also have other work. So watching my videos is not your only work, and making YouTube videos is not my only job as well. So yeah, I totally understand. Now, first of all, if we just look I mean, let me just speak about my journey a bit, because not because I want to emphasize or in a way dramatize it. It's nothing special, to be honest, but because of the simple reason that I can speak best about my journey. I cannot speak about someone else's journey or some successful person whose autobiography or maybe biography I read. Of course, if I read someone's biography, I get to know about the person, of course, but I will never know such a person better than I know myself. And of course, I'm not claiming that I am at their level, of course, but you don't have to be. If I just want to, I just want to illustrate this concept of handling failures versus chasing success, and for that, anybody works. You don't need to pick a very successful man to illustrate this point, to this example. That's very important. And what I have learned in the last 5 or 6 years, because before the last 6 years or 7 years, yeah, maybe 6 to 7 years, I was just an ordinary student. And again, there is nothing wrong in being ordinary, because uh, I will just take you through the major realizations that I had over the last 6 years. And the reason I'm focusing on the last 6 years is because that is the time the most significant changes took place in my life. And that's natural, because usually I mean, right now I'm 21 years old, so this is the time usually the last 6 years. I mean, maybe 15 years to 21 years. This is usually the time when changes take place in most people's life, not just me. So people are under the impression that I love physics. Do I love physics? Well, definitely I do. But if I if I were to actually answer very honestly, I see this is not a really practical way of looking at things. But if I actually were to go deep into each and every thing in life, I'm pretty sure I would come to the conclusion that I don't feel anything at all. And this is a very crucial distinction I want to make, because there are some people who feel sad, who feel depressed, and that is something which is treatable, which can be dealt with. Because if you feel sad or if you feel down, that means you have a reference for what feeling good could be, of what feeling happy could be. So in your mind, you have a reference of what it would feel like to be happy, and with respect to the reference, right now you're feeling sad. Okay, that's fine, but that means there is still the possibility of feeling happy. There is still the possibility that your situation improves, and you hope for that, which is why you are feeling sad, which is why you seek attention, which is why you seek out for help. But if you cannot feel anything at all, and by this I mean you can neither feel happy and can neither feel sad. For instance, if something very good happens to you, you don't feel happy, and if something like bad happens, you're like, okay, we're used to it, you don't feel very sad as well. That is something, it's very difficult to pull yourself out of it, and that is not depression. That is, I think it would be more apathy or indifference, which in my opinion, in my experience, actually not just opinion, in my experience, it's much more dangerous in a way, but it's also much more honest, much more real, because actually everything indeed is meaningless. But yeah, for your personal from your personal point of view, that's much more difficult to deal with. So for instance, the people who get depressed, if you've noticed, this is something which I have noticed, they usually happen to be very attention seeking. Like, they want to make a story out of the depression. They want to go to people and speak to them about the depression. Maybe they give WhatsApp statuses, or share some, I don't know, on their WhatsApp status they share something sad, or just as an, like an indirect indirect like plea for attention. Like, see, I am depressed, that's why I'm sharing this stuff. I want you to text me, are you all right? That is the kind of thing. Okay, but the people who are actually indifferent, they will not bother with, because it really does not matter to them. So the people who are depressed, it's very easy to make them happy. I mean, not always. I'm sorry if I put it in a wrong way. I'm not saying that it's very easy to make depressed people happy. Of course that's not what I mean. What I mean is that it's very easy to, I mean, if they get what they want, which usually, if it's something very unrealistic, it's a different situation. But then they will suddenly feel very happy. Like, they go through highs and lows, and the highs are very short lived, very momentary. But when they feel the high, the euphoria, then it's very intense, if you know what I mean. So that's why the depressed people, for the majority of the time, they feel down, they feel low. But for these short bursts of energy, euphoria, high, or whatever you want to call it, is there. So for instance, if you're feeling depressed, but just what you have dreamt of, something happens, and so for a moment you'll feel very, very happy. But the people who are actually indifferent, if they get an email that they have been accepted to their dream company, their dream job, their dream university, or if they get an email like they have won the Nobel Prize, they will be like, okay, okay, fine. I mean, they will not feel happy. And that's important, because the indifferent means you're not just indifferent to sadness, you also have to be indifferent to happiness. Otherwise, it's not a true indifference. Then your indifference is biased. So biased indifference is not indifference at all. Now, this is the kind of view that I have followed. Not really followed. I mean, that's the way I am. I'm not saying that I built myself this way, but I found that I am, most of the time I'm indifferent. I mean, I'm not saying I don't ever feel happy or sad. Of course, I do. But mostly the only emotion which I feel with the equal intensity, like the only emotion which is persistent in my life, at least this is my analysis over the last few years, is that is a sense of I shouldn't call it existential dread or something, but it's more like a sense of disturb, like a disturb. How should I put it? A sense of bewilderment. This is very important, because a lot of people ask me, why do you do physics, and the answer they expect. I mean, this is not their fault, and they expect this because most physics students usually answer this. So why do you love physics? Oh, when I was in high school, I just came across this concept, and I was like, my mind was blown, and I was so interested in how the universe works. I was so interested in how this works. This makes me so curious. This is so interesting. This is the reaction you get. For me, it was none of that. I don't care how the universe works. Sorry, I would have preferred if I didn't care how the universe works. And I did not come to physics. I did not choose physics to study physics because I was very interested in finding out the theory of everything or something like that. That kind of shit. Uh, for me, it was like bewilderment. And if some of you who have been following me from the very beginning, I'm pretty sure you guys know that my initial obsession when I was in, like, when just at the beginning of this last 6 year period I've been talking about, my initial obsession was not physics, it was consciousness. And the simple reason that was not because I just came across a neuroscience book and I was like, I fell in love with the subject, with all the technical details and the high school kind of energy. No, I want to be a neuroscientist. I want to figure out the mystery of consciousness. No, no, none of that. It was sheer bewilderment and a kind of, you could say, a horror, a dread, an existential horror that I am conscious, but I don't know why. So if you just think about it for a moment, let's say you go to sleep to today night, and tomorrow morning you wake up in a place which you do not know, let's say in an unknown place, and there are no humans around. Everything is different, like maybe the sky is red, the field is blue, or like, just imagine some bizarre kind of like unfamiliar world. You wake up there and there is no one around, no living creature around, nothing seems to be moving anyway. So there is no living creature around, nobody can ask anything, and you're just stranded there. You're like, how did I come here? I was in the earth, I was among humans, my name was this, I was sleeping yesterday night, I went to sleep on my bed. You have no clue what happened, right? So how would you feel? You can feel yourself, you can feel that that you exist, and maybe you see a lot of stuff happening around you, but you don't know how you got there. This is the same thing, actually, the same situation each and every human we are in, because we don't know how we got here. We have this we have, I don't know, we have science, we have physics, biology, we have some theories, some models, some explanations. Okay, so this is how a baby takes birth, this is how the first life came on earth, abiogenesis, the first living cell, phase separation in molecules, biomolecular condensates, all that is technical. But just ask you, and we do have a pretty good idea of how things happen. Of course, not the very detailed, rigorous one yet, but we do have, like, I mean, we're not grappling in the dark anymore. We do have answers to a lot of questions, actually. Not everything, of course, but yeah. But still, do we really understand the why? We don't. And scientists will say that there is no why to answer. It's a spontaneous process. Okay, so the universe began with, and then shit happened in one tiny corner of it. A planet called Earth was formed. Life was formed. So there is no why. Like, look, why did life form? There is no divine purpose, and that is the most reasonable view. I myself am of the same opinion. But still, there is no point denying that at times it gets very disturbing to think about that we don't even know all of this clearly. Maybe we shouldn't even expect to know. Maybe what we already know, even that is surprising, that how we know all this. Like, how come simple mathematical rule, maybe a local geometrical rule. If we just simulate it on a lattice, we see some behavior on a polymer chain which actually biological systems exhibit. Just for an example, I mean, it's really surprising why simple mathematical rules, or just the same kind of mathematics, why do they work in so many different areas? Why do they work so accurately in describing the physical world? Why do we even understand the world so well at all? That in itself is a surprise, but I don't want to get to that here in this video. So yeah, I mean, so in a way we're all trapped on this earth, we don't know why, and we are all kind of going with the flow, and we would like to, I mean, that's not the view we like, so we try to create our own stories, but these are all stories, these are all fantasies. I want to be a physicist. Okay, I am a physicist. I am this. I am that. I am doing this. I came into this field because of that. All of this is kind of made up to create a sense of belonging, a sense of control within ourselves. That no, I am in control of my life. I know why I'm here. We actually don't. None of us do. Whether it's the most successful man in the world, or the most, let's say, the least successful man in the world. So you understand what I'm saying, right? So in that case, I mean, okay, I'm sorry, because this is really, it's really late night, and I was having this kind of thoughts, and I'm also feeling a bit tired. But my whatever I'm saying might sound a bit incoherent. I'm not reading out from a script, but I want to keep it very natural and honest, just so that I can listen to it myself, maybe in some time, and maybe if one or two of you want to listen, you're welcome to listen. Although it might be a waste of your time, because maybe the key takeaways can be condensed into, let's say, 5 minutes, but this video is gonna be, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's already 16 minutes, 17 minutes, whatever. So that's what I want to say, that my story started not with curiosity, not with interest, not with a sudden eureka moment or anything. It started with sheer bewilderment. I don't know how I am thinking, how I'm conscious and stuff, yet I am. So I have to find out the answer. Now, that was, of course, the high school dream, of course, because then we usually, I was just 15 years old then, and I was very naive. To me, it was like, okay, like, because when we were kids, we were like, oh, I want to be astronaut, I want to be this, I want to be, we don't take into consideration the practical aspects of our aspirations. We are free to dream whatever we want. So that's why you won't laugh at a high school student if he says that he wants to be, let's say, someone like Elon Musk. But if a grown-up man says that, you're pretty sure that they're hallucinating, because yeah, and I mean, you get the example I'm talking about. So I mean, well, I don't know. At the end of the day, it, at least to me, it appears that we are just like, we are trapped in a life we never chose. So you give, like, you place an order in an online marketplace. Let's say you place an order on Amazon. So you check the product specifications, you check all of that, and then you place an order. And if the order doesn't arrive in perfect condition, you go mad, you write a bad review, you return the order, you shout, maybe, I don't know. Think about life. If for a moment, if you believe that life is a product, none of us signed up for this, none of us checked the specifications and placed an order. Okay, so I am placing an order for life. I want to be in possession of this life for, let's say, the next 80 years. Let's sign a contract, and I want to choose my conditions, this. Okay, so I'll be born in that country, in that place, in that family, poor family or wealthy family. I mean, of course, nobody would usually choose poor family. So none of that. But yet we are here, and we try to act like as if this is the most natural thing that happened. We wake up, we go to the, I mean, we go to university, or the working people, they go to their office, or their workplace. We do stuff, we eat, we sleep, and the same thing over and over and over again. Now, and all the while we chase success. So why do we dream? I mean, why do we even want to become successful? This, I'm not saying whether it's important to become successful. Yeah, to some extent, definitely yes, because if you have to live, I mean, of course, whatever I'm saying, if I go too deep, then of course we will soon come to the point when we will realize that actually there is no point in living, there is no point in anything. But from that, up to that, it's fine. But if we jump one step ahead and say that that means we should kill ourselves, that is where we will, like, we will go too far. Because no, of course we don't understand why we're here. And it's true that there is no point in anything, but there is no point in life does not, at least in my opinion, it does not translate to we should die, because there is no point in dying as well. Yeah, there is no point in life, and it's always good to realize that, and at times, balance your life. I mean, balance your uh, pursuit of success and your handling of failures, if I put it my way. But yeah, so the point of what I was saying was that, I'm sorry again, I'm talking in a very incoherent manner. I'm really sorry for that. So yeah, we science has given us a lot of explanations and stuff, but again, they're very like, even today they're very separated, compartmentalized into different branches. We don't have a complete picture, and I think we never will have. It's not just a matter of present knowledge or scientific progress or advancement. At the deepest level, it's I'm pretty sure we will have no understanding. But it's really haunting, bewildering, haunting, frightening. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but that we this everything, this entire life, each and every aspect of it. Just look at the road. All these cars are going, and I mean, right now it's night, so you cannot walk. You cannot see a lot of people walking about. But I mean, when you just look at humans in general, be it at the university, at the laboratory, or just on the road, I'm like, okay, so all these humans, they seem so oblivious of the fact that, like, nobody usually. I mean, if you meet some stranger, the first thing you ask them is not usually, "Have you ever wondered whether we're living in a simulation?" I'm pretty sure this is not a very good way to start a conversation. I mean, maybe if it's someone like me, it would be a good way to start a conversation with them, but it's not usually. So, but people are like, "Hey, how are you doing? What did you have for lunch? How was your weekend? Did you complete that assignment?" I'm like, how can people act like they have got it all figured out? They've got everything in control, and that assignment or what I had for lunch is the most important thing in the world. I never like, and so it felt very surprising to me. But now I understand that all of this is just evolutionary habit we have grown. It's just our way of pretending we understand, pretending that we don't care, pretending that we are in control, but in reality we are not. But of course, if we just kept thinking about the deep questions, we would not have got an answer. On the contrary, life would be very difficult for, and we wouldn't have done any real work. I mean, it's. I'm not saying that that we do real work that makes our life meaningful. No, nothing can make our life meaningful because it's inherently meaningless. But still, that's real work and a sense of purpose, hope. That's what pulls us through, even if it has got no intrinsic meaning. Right. So yeah, I mean, and so when I started my, let's say, my journey 5 6 or 7 years back, I was like, it started with consciousness. Then I realized that in India, if you want to study neuroscience, you have to mug up a lot of biology and become a doctor, maybe neurosurgeon and stuff. That's not what I wanted to do. So then I decided, and then it was kind of spontaneous, but it was also some hard work on my part. But the initial spark was spontaneous, at least. I certainly switched to physics from neuroscience, although consciousness still remained. I mean, it still is one of my interests. And right now, I'm still, of course, I won't say I'm researching consciousness, but I personally believe that aspects of consciousness can be understood using physics, especially the recent interest in graph theory. I mean, computational physics, physics of complex systems. Of course, we don't know what consciousness is, whether it can even be studied scientifically, but at least we need to try out different ways, especially this artificial intelligence and all. So, I mean, it's definitely something to explore. So yeah, I mean, the truth is, if I'm very being very honest with you, physics is something I love more than anything else in my life, maybe, of course, because of, I don't know why, but when it comes to humans, I, for some reason, I am always left out. I find it very difficult to blend in or fit in with my peers. In fact, I think I mentioned this in previous videos as well again. So that I find it much more easier to be honest and open and be myself with professors and people much older than my age, because then I don't have to calculate everything I say. I don't have to think that, okay, this may be used against me. I don't have to worry about all the drama and all the shit that usually that goes on between peers, the peer politics. Like, it could be relationships, it could be, I don't know, I mean, it could be your friend trying to exploit you before the exams, like, just so that you can It could be a lot of that stuff. So you don't have to worry about all that if you are with talking with someone like a professor or some like a really interested professor, someone who sees you, your different side, and who is okay with it. I mean, if your frequencies match. I mean, so, but yeah, I mean, I have always had trouble with humans, and I always have this habit of translating my messy emotions to something I can handle with, which is, of course, mathematics and physics and equations and stuff. So even if an equation is stochastic, I still have more control on it than emotions. I mean, even if an equation is random, let's say I have a stochastic differential equation, a very random coupled nonlinear system with a lot of randomness. Let's say an active matter system where you're adding some noise at every time step, so it's a very random system. You cannot predict. It's not a deterministic system, but even then you have more control over the system. You can run simulations and study collective behavior. For humans, I believe we can, but I cannot because I am an individual too. If you're studying the flocking of birds using the zigzag model, you can study it because you are a human and you can see the entire system at once, all those birds. But if you were one of those birds with a fixed neighborhood, you couldn't have really understood zigzag model, applied zigzag model to yourself and the birds around you, and got that understanding definitely. So that's the thing. I am a human, and I'm interacting with my peers. So I believe this kind of collective behavior emerges in social dynamics in rules, and there are a lot of models. It's nothing new actually, but I mean, people are trying different things. It's nothing very established as well. But again, for me, it's very difficult. And I think so that's why I always unconsciously. I recently worked on independently. I built a model, a mathematical framework to model dyadic emotions and relationships. I'm planning to drop a YouTube video about it as well recently, like just hopefully by this week or maybe by the next. So yeah, and that's good because all the people who have tried to wrong me or tried to give me, I don't know, tried to hurt me, tried to exploit me, tried to treat me unfairly, none of them are really doing better than me right now. And it's fine, I don't even care whether they are or whether they are not. But the thing is that they actually pushed me into all this exploring a lot of stuff and pushing myself hard every night, doing much more than what was necessary, and they actually boosted my productivity a lot. You can take a look at my profile, all those independent projects and articles. If I'm being very honest, a good percentage of them were motivated by personal incidents and not just because, oh my god, I'm so interested in physics. Because if you are just interested in physics, that cannot justify you for that cannot give you enough motivation to stay up the entire night for 2 weeks, for consecutive 14 days when you're on holiday, and write a 84-page article report just because you wanted to. It's not internship report. It's not something you have to do. Otherwise, you won't get your degree, you won't get a certificate. Not nothing like that. So just motivation is not enough to justify. It was also a personal drive, a personal challenge. I have to show them that I can do. It's not a very healthy mindset, but I'm just being very honest. That's the way I am. I'm not saying you should be like this. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes if you can channel your anger into something productive, it's good. But in extreme doses, this is also not a very healthy mindset. I totally understand. But again, I cannot totally change all of it because that's the way I am wired actually. But yeah, let me tell you, it works on the short run. The feeling you get after you accomplish what you thought you couldn't. And it actually in a way it's good because you stop seeing them as enemies. I mean, you use them as a fuel to propel yourself forward, which, I mean, I have no problem with that. But so all that is about the success and all that part. But what about failures? Let me share some one or two few incidents with you. There are times I almost come close to, or maybe let's say there are times I do hate physics. Yeah, I mean, I hate physics. There are times I don't understand what's being taught in the class, and everyone around me appear like they understand it. Maybe they actually have understood it, or maybe some of them are faking it. But yeah, there are times like this, and I'm like, I mean, be it in my undergraduate years or even now in one or two classes, and I have to every night, not every night, but there is nights I have to pull all nighters. I have to give in a lot of effort. I have to solve problems, and it doesn't come easy. It's not like, oh my god, physics is something I love. I know all of it by already. It'll just take a it's magic. Oh my god, it's not like that. And I always tell that magic is the biggest lie, the biggest illusion. The actual magicians who perform magic, they they need a lot of practice, they need a lot of method. They have to practice like a machine to be the magician on the stage. So you are judging them uh, on their 3 or 4 hours, like I don't know, 2 or 3 hours magic show, the performance, but you don't know what the effort that has been put behind the curtains to make the performance happen. Same for physicists, same for every profession. So when people see me giving a like delivering a talk in a conference, or when people see the my LinkedIn profile, they can only see that magic show. So it may seem like I'm a magician, but I'm not. There are times I struggle with even basic physics. Sometimes I forget, sometimes I can't get it, sometimes my mind doesn't work, sometimes I get too overwhelmed, sometimes I get anxious, all of it. There are times I struggle with was physics right for me. There are times I give too much importance to a person I cannot, and there are times I find it difficult to move on. So yeah, for me it's usually not very like not about relationships and stuff, because I try to keep away from people from the very beginning. I try to draw boundaries, and I find it very difficult to like make friends and stuff. But even that has its let's say has its cost. So there are times I find I feel very lonely. I'm not complaining, because it's my choice. I've chosen this life. I'm not saying nobody wanted to be friends with me, but I have had enough of that, and I am like I actively created distance. So now I cannot complain that they drifted away. I didn't hold them in my life, so of course they would drift away. I'm not complaining, but yeah, there are times, and maybe I'm actually better off this way, because if I was with them, they would have pulled me down without meaning to, and okay, maybe that's not the life I wanted anyway. Going out with friends, hanging around with friends, no, it's good because okay, so just to give you a context, a little context, in the last 1 week, like the last 7 days, last 9 days actually, just a little more than a week, I prepared two reports, like short reports. These are just pedagogical articles or pieces. Some of it is original work, but it's not my real internship. So my real internship is will just begin from the next semester. Right now, I'm just doing a bit of background study. So yeah, I generated these kind of reports, and my supervisor. I did the a lot of work which I was not required to do within this short period of time. And of course it didn't come easy. I mean the 20 or 30 pages art the reports, they didn't write themselves. I had to write it, I had to research it, I had to run the simulations, I had to study the background, I had to all of that. And night after night I lay awake. In the middle I got a little sick and stuff. And since I'm alone in a different country, there are times I get homesick, and I was never a very good cook back in India. So I have to cook my own meals here, but sometimes I get too lucky and sometimes I get too lazy and I I don't know why I said lucky, by the way. Sometimes I get too lazy and I skip my meals, and it's my health is not doing very great overall. But okay, anyway, so all of that effort is that I could have chosen, like this week was a holiday here, so I could have chosen to hang around with my friends. There are people who asked me to like who asked me if I would like to join them. I could have said yes. I could have gone and gone to some nearby. I did go to only one day. I went to kind of a very good like aquarium kind of stuff, but that's within the town. I could have gone to some nearby cities also, because usually when people are in France or Europe, Europe is very well connected by public transport, trains and stuff. So it's easy, and it's also cheap to visit nearby cities, and that's people usually do. I also like to travel actually, but this week I was a bit busy with work, so I didn't. Anyway, so yeah, and it's I don't know. It's difficult. It gets difficult at times, and there is a different kind of satisfaction in that work. But at the end of the day, I know that this is not really meaningful. Even if I become a physicist, a professor, or something in the future, that I would still that would still not save me from these existential questions and all this stuff. So that's why I need to be ready. Now I would like to end the video on this note, the most important maybe. I would like to, yeah, so that's why we need to be ready for any kind of situations, and it's very important not to have any, let's say, misconceptions or presuppositions or any kind of thing, like if like not get too rigid about something. Like I am not rigid on physics. Okay, of course physics is the only thing I truly love in that sense, but there are times I hate even physics. There are times I struggle with physics, and it should never be that if suppose if tomorrow I seriously started hating physics, then I should find something alternative to make life worth living. What I'm saying is that you should always know how to handle any kind of situations. By this I mean handling failures actually, because life will throw stones at you and you don't know at from what direction, what size of the stones, the what velocity, you don't know. So you should be ready for all of that. And while nihilism and stuff can act as a natural blanket, like okay, it's all meaningless anyway, what does it matter, but only in healthy doses. Otherwise, if you just keep thinking life is meaningless, I did that, and trust me, it's not a very enjoyable experience. So I mean, if you seriously want to do that, if you just want to act cool and just in front of your friends and just mention this shit, that's fine, that's a different thing. But if you're actually, you think about these questions when you're alone and actually you get disturbed by it, I mean the true, then it's very difficult. So yeah, and what else to? Again, this was not very scripted, so maybe I'm missing some important points. But I mean, yeah, it's very important at times to stop trying to justify yourself, or stop trying to always chase something big. Like for instance, I at one point of time in the middle, I tried to justify what, like, okay, no, I don't have friends, but that's fine, that's better for me. No, you don't need to justify. Okay, maybe that is better for you, maybe that's worse for you, but you don't need to justify everything. You don't need to justify this. You don't need to you don't even need to compare yourself with others. It at times the best way to handle failures is just to zoom out and relax. By zoom out I mean put everything in perspective. Okay, I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, I can move my hands, I can move my legs, I can breathe the fresh air in front of me. That should give you enough motivation. But at the back of your mind, I mean, at least at the back of my mind, there is always this fear of not fear really, but this sense of bewilderment. This, I always feel disturbed about existence, about everything, actually, about everything. So I mean, we never signed up for this life, yet we're here, we are out here living it anyway. And all this art, the songs we write, the music we produce, the poems we write, the stories we write and love, and the movies we watch and produce, all of this, just an attempt on our part to try to make it appear meaningful. I mean, that's what art, see, art and science is, the basic difference between art and science. In a way, both are like human pursuits, right? But the basic difference is that art tries to make life appear worth living for, and science tries to make like appear important, and in a way, like it's the analytical aspect. But in a way, art and science are trying to do the same thing. They are trying to create purpose in a world that has no purpose, in different ways. The purpose of science is different from the purpose of art, and purpose of art, and both are important. I'm not saying art is meaning, well, it depends. Maybe practically science is more important than art, but I'm not, but art is not totally useless, because you cannot even define use, meaning, purpose, anything inherently. If you speak inherently, then everything is meaningless, be it science or arts. So again, but all human pursuits actually, they are aimed at creating meaning and creating the illusion of meaning actually. So why do we dream? It's because you can even think of it like this, that dreams have an evolutionary reason, that dreams are something which kind of helps us keep living. Because if we actually were face to face with the actual meaninglessness of life, then we would find no purpose, no motivation to continue living. But dreams are like, it gives us, it feeds us this false sense of security, that no, you are good, you can do it. It dreams, in short, dreams give us false hopes. No, it's okay to dream, you can do it, you can be successful one day. But that's false hope. Okay, maybe I can be successful one day, but successful by the standards set by society, but what then? Everything would not suddenly fall into place once I am successful. Life would not suddenly become paradise, and I would not find the meaning of life. I would not find the key to to paradise if I become successful. So what next? So this is, but so yeah, in a way, you will never be like content, and that's the very basic feature of life, I think. So you should think about how to make peace with that, instead of trying to avoid it or trying to fix it, because not everything can be fixed, and this is one of those things. And yeah, with that, I don't have any grand punchline or ending line, any catchphrase or something, but I think, yeah, that's enough. With that, let's I mean, Yeah, and just something else I wanted to mention. That's last. I promise this is the last point. It's all about balance. In life, in everything actually, even in science research. For instance, recently I was giving a public speaking, like in a I was attending a like it was kind of like in here in Montpellier in France, in my university. It was kind of like a workshop for science communication and public speaking and stuff. So I gave a very when it was my turn to speak in front of everyone, I started with, like, this was actually a very good way to engage the audience, because of course you have to understand the attention span of the audience, because when you're a speaker your aim is to deliver some information, like make sure that the audience takes home something. It's not just you have to show that, oh, I know this, look, I know so much physics, I know the technical details. So if you're a speaker for show, then that's different. But if you're a real speaker, you should have some impact on the audience, right? So I just made a kind of periodic noise on the whiteboard behind me, like to this kind of noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but this kind of noise. So I did this 5 times, 5 or 6 times, and the audience was suddenly, "What is this guy doing? Has he gone mad or something?" But then I realized, then I asked the audience, "Okay, so I want to ask you a question. What I just did, would any of you call that music?" Of course, they said, "No, it's just a periodic noise, like tuck 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 tuck. So it's not music, right?" I don't. Okay, fair enough. Now, if you go to let's say very crowded marketplace and see the chaos, the chaotic noise they from every direction, would you call that music? They're like, of course not. It's just random noise like chaos. I would say, okay, so then what is music? I'm not reading from the slides or just telling my thoughts. I'm engaging them in the conversation. Like I'm asking them what is music. I don't know the effect this has on the audience. I've observed this many times. It forces them to open up and speak and engage, because the peer pressure is always there. For instance, if I ask them a question, and if one of them raises their hand and give me an answer, then the audience around that person will feel like, okay, this guy gave an answer, so I also need to give an answer, else I will feel small, I will feel down. So I also need to show that, I can also engage. So in a way you are forcing them all to engage, which is a very good strategy, by asking questions, maybe creating polls, this and that, blah blah blah. But I mean, the point of that example, then I illustrated that it's all about balance. So music is a balance between predictability and unpredictability. So if it's totally predictable, like the noise I made on the whiteboard, that's not music. If it's totally unpredictable, like let's say random noise in a crowded marketplace, that's not music. So uh, music is real good music. It's predictable because there is a very good structure, like verses, some portions that repeat, chorus and stuff. But it's also not totally predictable, not the first time you listen to it, at least, right? So uh, and then from that I gave a few more examples. But if you think about it like this, humans are a balance between autonomy and interaction. All humans have this autonomy. By autonomy I mean the individuality. No, I have my own principles, I am different from everyone else, I am unique, and I will guard my individuality. So there are times all humans have they preserve their identity, right? That's autonomy. But it should be balanced out with interaction. If someone says that, no, I'm not going to interact with anyone, I'll just stay isolated, that's not a practical way of living as well. So you have to have interactions, but again, your interactions should not influence you so strong that your identity fluctuates. That's again not a good thing. So even science research, it's a balance between competition and collaboration. Usually collaboration is preferred. I mean, in my opinion, collaboration is the answer, not not competition, because of the very simple reason that collaboration ensures balance between different fields, not competition. But if at an individual level, both are important to some extent, because if you are like full collaboration mode without competition, then you might seem like you're just looking for opportunities, but you don't have the enough weight or enough independent thinking to do stuff yourself. So you should, to prove yourself, you should compete with the right rivals, but you should collaborate with the, I mean, everyone is a rival in a sense, but some rivals are worth collaborating with, and some rivals are just for competition, just to sharpen your skills in a way. So yeah, and so yeah, the point I was saying is that this balance is very important, because all of life in a way is a balance between order and chaos, between opposing forces. Order and chaos is one possible way to look at it. You could also look at it in a different, by using a different pair of opposing effects. But and what is most important is maintaining the balance. So if someone is fully nihilistic, that's not a good thing. If someone is like, life is meaningless, we should die, that's not a good thing. And if someone ignores the deep question totally and just leaves a shallow existence, that is also not good. So you should balance it out. When you're doing some serious work, you should focus on your work, you should avoid distraction. So at that in that period, even nihilism should be treated like a distraction. In that period, just maybe listen to music and just do your work. When I'm writing my reports, or making my slides and doing my research, I don't think about the meaninglessness of life. So then I'm focused. That's a good thing. But I'm not just like a robot working. There are times I think about the big questions. So it's a balance. And what we should focus on, this is usually not encouraged and not taught. What is usually taught is, you focus on your field, you focus on becoming successful. Again, that's not a balance. This is a very good way of thinking, actually. In every situation, every aspect of life, you should seek out balance, and not lean towards either, like not lean towards one side. So for instance, when people are saying that, no, you should chase success, and that sounds like very obvious, like, yeah, that's true, we should chase success, we should all try to become successful. But you don't see the problem with that argument. They are asking you to lean toward one side, that is the side of success, but it should be a balance between success and failure. Now, of course, I don't mean that you should sometimes try to become successful and sometimes try to fail. No, not try to fail, but you should also learn to handle failures. Because if your life was if your life was just a trajectory on a phase space of different situations, it would this is just some statistical physics argument, but this is very true. If you don't get the technical details, it's totally okay. But you will usually explore all different possible situations in life. And so nobody is like, you cannot expect to be successful most of the time. You'll be life is full of ups and downs, it's very true. And from the outside, it might appear like, okay, like someone, like, I don't know, like that person is very successful, very happy and all, but you don't know whether he or she, whether they are actually happy or not, but they are also going through a lot of struggles. You can only see the surface. So on average, and maybe the person who looks very sad, maybe they also have their own reason to be happy, which you don't know. The people you interact with, except maybe your immediate family, the people you live with in the same house, except those kind of otherwise, the people you see or you interact with, you see them for a very small time. So you don't see your, let's say, your classmate, you don't see them 24 hours a day. You see them maybe for a very long, very short time. But you form a mental image of that person based on what you see, and you feel like that's right. But no, you don't know that person actually. You only see, that's not enough to know the person. So yeah, so for the example of success and failure, you should also devote time to handle failures and not take it in a positive way. And not so yeah, failures are not something you should hide behind. You should hide behind you, or you should feel bad about, or feel ashamed about. Rather, in a way, they're also something you should be proud of. And it's not that once you become yeah, it's true that once you become successful, and if you then talk about your failures, then people will usually take notice, and your words will have a much more impact. But if you are not successful, and if you talk about your failures, nobody's going to listen to you. That's unfortunate, but that's also, unfortunately, that's true. But that's not how it should be. We should also, at least individually, in our minds, I'm not asking you all to go out and talk about your failures publicly. You could, at least among your friends, you could. But yeah, what I'm saying is that you should all, both are very important, and both are equally important, actually, if you think about it. So okay, anyway, I think I should stop now. Thanks for watching.